Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the three of you for being here today. In particular, Secretary Kerry, since I think this is the first time you've been before this committee, so I appreciate your being here. I guess at the outset, I think we can all agree that this incident occurred. I think we're all clear as to who's responsible for the chemical attack. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think the American people accept that as well. But I have a series of questions related to why he did it, sort of what his motives are, and it doesn't matter to me which one of you answers these questions. But first of all, why did Assad do this in the first place on August 21st?
Let me, militarily, I can't speak to his internal domestic calculation, but militarily, his force has been at war now for 2 years. It's tired. They were having an extraordinary difficult time clearing neighborhoods because of apartment complexes and so forth. It consumes a military force to clear an urban setting, and so he took the decision to clear it using chemicals. In essence, to use chemical weapons on a tactical basis? Okay. Exactly. Do you folks consider him to be a rational actor in the classical international relations sense of that word? Do you consider the president of Syria to be a rational actor?
I think he, I mean, we get mixed info. To some degree, he is isolated. To some degree, he is operating under very difficult circumstances where people apparently tell him things he wants to hear. I don't think he gets a lot of bad news delivered to him and so forth. But he certainly has a survival instinct and a rational sense of what he'd like to do. I think part of if I can just add to what the General said, part of his calculation for using them is that he's been able to use them in small amounts without anybody stopping that. We did ratchet up. President Obama, when he had conclusive evidence that the line that he'd drawn had been crossed, he decided that was sufficient then to send a message, and he dictated that we would assist the opposition. Now he's taking it to the next step.
If I could continue on, and thank you for the answer. Did he use these weapons then to simply maintain his power from a rational actor standpoint? Is that fair to say?
Use them to do what?
Maintain his power, to remain president of Syria.
Yes, and to beat the opposition, sure.
But what we're saying here, too, is that this limited strike, however limited it is not designed to remove him from power. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Although it was stated, I mean, the president some years ago stated that he'd like to see Assad go. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it has been stated today that perhaps further down the road, there will be maybe one of the effects of this will be to get him to the bargaining table with the expectation, I assume, on the part of our government, many of us here, that he won't be president of Syria any longer. Is that correct?
That's the fundamental strategy, but the connection is not quite accurate. This strike is calculated to tell him, don't use those weapons, and to reduce his capacity to do so sufficiently that he will know that if he were to do it again, that worse could happen to him.
And
that's predicated on his rational connection.
Right.
If I do this, X will happen.
And it is important, I think, if we're going to have a successful strategy, it is important for us to think about this from his perspective. We don't like him. We don't empathize with him. We don't think he's a good guy. He's a bad guy. But at the same time, if you're in his shoes and the greatest power on earth attacked him, and however limited a way, and if his goal is to stay in power, and if he is a rational actor, why would he not simply conclude that the strike was even though we don't want it to be the case, you may not want it to be the case, why wouldn't he conclude that the strike is intended to get rid of him as president of Syria? Why would he not conclude that?
Because a number of things. Messaging, the targeting, and the nature of the strike, which he full well knows is he listened to this debate. He knows Congress isn't deciding to get rid of him. The message is going to be pretty clear. So the bottom line is that it will be targeted to do what it can, which is to achieve a restraint on his ability to use his chemical.
And I understand what the goal is, and I understand the rationale.
But-
My concern
but-
is,
but I
but let
just-
me just finish because I just have 4 seconds. My concern, and I think it's an important one, is that if he doesn't do
Gentleman's time
what
has
is
expired.
intended, what will be the
Gentleman's time has
consequences?
expired.
What will be his response? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Hunter.